Let's be real. Have you ever felt like the world is just spinning completely out of control? Well, it turns out people felt the exact same way 700 years ago. Today, we're diving into the incredible, timeless wisdom of a man named Johannes Tauler, who figured out how to find a kind of inner peace that was absolutely unshakable, even when the world outside was, literally falling apart.
I want you to just for a second, imagine living in the 14th century. And this wasn't just a rough patch. We're talking about an entire era, defined by the sheer terror of the Black Death, non-stop political violence, and this deep, gnawing fear that society itself was just crumbling.
Okay, now snap back to our world. The things causing our stress, they look a little different, right? It's the endless digital distractions, the global uncertainty, that constant low-level hum of anxiety. But that core feeling, that feeling of being completely overwhelmed, that is a direct echo from their time to ours.
So, to really get the power of Tauler's wisdom, we have to first understand the world that it came from. This whole story starts in a time of profound crisis, a period that, well, it mirrors some of our own anxieties in a way that's pretty eerie.
I mean, the 14th century was an absolute pressure cooker. You had the Black Death, wiping out a huge chunk of the population. Politics were in total chaos. Social structures were just breaking down. And even the spiritual institutions that were supposed to be a refuge, they were riddled with corruption. In a world like that, finding any kind of security on the outside was basically impossible.
And yet, right from the heart of all that chaos, a voice of incredible calm emerged. And this is where we meet our guide for this journey, Johannes Tauler.
So, who was this guy? Born around the year 1300 in Strasbourg, Germany, Johannes Tauler was a Dominican priest. He was actually a student of the famous mystic Meister Eckhart, and a huge figure in this movement called the Friends of God. And these were people who weren't just about following the rules. They were after a deep, personal, inner transformation.
And here's what made Tauler's whole approach so radical. He wasn't some hermit who ran off to the mountains to get away from it all. No, he stayed right there, in the middle of everything, preaching to merchants and bakers and parents, teaching totally regular people how to build an inner fortress of peace that no plague or political disaster could ever touch.
So how did he teach this? How did he do it? Well, he offered a really practical toolkit, what he called 4 keys to unlocking that inner sanctuary. Let's dig into them. Right, here's the roadmap he laid out. It all starts with inner detachment. That leads to what he calls a spiritual birth. Then it's all lived out through practical spirituality, and it's tested and strengthened by understanding the value of suffering. So let's start with that first one.
The first and really the most foundational key is this German concept called Gelassenheit. Now, this is so much more than just going with the flow. It's a really deep spiritual practice of letting go of your ego, of your desperate need to control everything, and your attachment to how you think things should turn out. For Tauler, this was everything. True freedom isn't found by getting everything you want. It's found when your soul can just rest in something greater than itself, without being constantly yanked around by all your personal fears and desires.
Okay, so this practice of letting go, it opens the door to the second key, what he called the birth of God in the soul. Now I know, it sounds super mystical, but think of it as the natural result of creating that inner quiet space. Once you detach, your soul can actually experience this profound transformation from the inside out, a sense of deep connection that literally reshapes your whole way of being. This was the ultimate goal.
But this deep inner experience wasn't meant to be kept separate from the world. And that brings us to the third key, which is what made Tauler so incredibly unique: practical spirituality. He was adamant that you do not need to be a monk to be spiritual. The real work, he said, happens right here, in the middle of your everyday life.
So what does that actually look like? It means doing your job, raising your family, dealing with your annoying neighbors, all of it with a spirit of compassion, patience, and humility. Your daily duties don't distract from your spiritual life. They become the very arena where you practice it.
Now, this final key is maybe the most challenging, but it's also the most powerful. Tauler taught his followers to completely reframe suffering. Instead of seeing it as some meaningless punishment from an angry God, he urged them to view it as a refining fire. A difficult, but necessary process that actually purifies the soul.
And this mental flip, this changes everything. When hardship hits, it's no longer just a crisis, it's an opportunity. It's a chance to practice that deep surrender, to really let go, and to discover a kind of peace that isn't dependent on your circumstances being good. It's a peace that can exist because of them, not just in spite of them.
Okay, so we've journeyed back 700 years. Now, let's bring it all home. Let's see exactly why this medieval mystic's advice is so unbelievably potent for our own anxious age.
Look, the external threats have changed, but the internal feeling hasn't. Their Black Death is our 24/7 digital distraction. Their political turmoil is our global uncertainty. That core human experience of being overwhelmed by chaos and anxiety, it's exactly the same. The costumes have changed, but the play is the same.
And this is the timeless truth, the absolute heart of Tauler's work. We will never, ever find lasting peace by trying to control the chaotic world out there. True, unshakable peace can only come from cultivating a quiet, still sanctuary within.
Tauler's message is really an invitation to stop living from the frantic, noisy surface of life and to start living from its quiet depths. So I'll just leave you with this question to think about. In our world of constant, overwhelming noise, where will you find your inner silence?